Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer, and this is one that I think will be very interesting. So on the home side, this one is half Swedish. It's from Skåne here in the very south of the country, a brewery that I've reviewed many things from, and on the away side it is half Russian, and this Russian brewery has featured on the channel before. As I've told you, there's some really exciting things going on in the Russian craft beer scene. I first encountered Russian beer back in maybe 2016 or 2017 when Malmö Brewing Company held the Russian Beer Festival and brought a lot of these breweries over into Sweden, which was really interesting. The standard of beer back then was really good, and quite recently my friend Hannah went to Moscow as well, so I was able to review a few other Russian beers for you on the channel maybe about 6, 7, 8 months ago, something like that, and this Russian brewery has been on the channel before, so definitely nice to return to these guys as well. So for the home side of things then, we are going to go up to Helsingborg in the northwest corner of Skåne, here in the south of Sweden, and we're having a look at another beer from Brewski Mikrobryggeri, and this one is brewed in collaboration with Zagovor Brewery, who are from Moscow. This particular beer is called the Double Shower Double IPA. It comes in at 8% ABV, and apparently this one has pineapple added to the boil instead of undergoing secondary fermentation, so it should be a pretty quirky beer. This one was released in Sweden on the 3rd of April 2020 through the tillfällig sortiment, the small partiers, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, there was 2 beers also released from AF Brew. You will have seen one of those published by the time this one appears actually. So a couple of Russian beer reviews for you this month. The other beers that I've had from Zagovor before were the was it the seal of approval, stamp of approval I think it was, and then Soundwave I think was the other one, and then I also had the collaboration with Puesta from Estonia that was also with AF Brew, the Trinity in Black, which was either an Imperial Stout or a big Imperial Porter, which was really nice. So this is my 4th review on the channel involving Zagovor, and God knows how many beer reviews I've done now with Brewski. These guys are a very good New England hazy IPA producer. They do some really nice Berliner Weisses and fruit beers and things like that as well. The cake series at the moment that they're doing is or the pie series, sorry, that they're doing is very interesting. And the Zagovor beers, have had the 2 hazy IPAs that I had, were really pretty damn good. The same, just as good quality is what you're going to find from the top Scandinavian breweries in my opinion, and as good as some of the American things too. But the European and American hazy IPAs these days, I think they are pretty much on par, to be honest with you. So very curious to see how this one turns out. Definitely nice to get more Russian beers here in Europe. They do, quite a few of the breweries, or a couple of them, Stam, AF Brew and Zagovor of course, seem to be getting their name out there a little bit more. We're getting some of their beers in the EU now, and they're also doing a lot of collaboration brews with different places around Europe. So it's definitely nice to see the Russian beers getting out there a little bit more, and long may that continue. But yeah, curious to see how this one turns out, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So as always, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries quickly before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brewski, and my other reviews that I've done from Zagovor. Hopefully I can add more to both of these lists at some point in the near future. It is more likely that you see Brewski before you see Zagovor, but hopefully it's not too long until you see more Russian beers as well. There's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you, and one for all the Russian beers. The Swedish one is added to pretty much all the time, the Russian one whenever I get the opportunity. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brewski first off then, we'll start with the Swedish brewery since these guys are the home brewery. So Brewski Mikrobryggeri, as I've told you before, were founded back in 2014, and they're based in Helsingborg in the northwest corner of Skåne here in the very south of Sweden. The founders of the company are Marcus Hjalmarsson, Johan Britsen, Alfred Olsen and Robin Skoglund, and all of these guys were largely inspired to brew their own beers, having tasted the American West Coast craft beers. So Marcus was the main man behind the brewing, and he was originally associated with the High Nose brand of beer, which was brewed at Brewski out on the Kullaberg Peninsula to the northwest of Helsingborg, and some of those beers are still brewed up there, and originally the Brewski beers were brewed up there as well, but these are all now brewed at their own brewery in the old train yard to the south of the main train station in central Helsingborg. This brewery has a capacity well over 100,000 litres of beer per month. In 2016 they also started their own beer festival, which is called Brewski. They had over 40 different breweries the first time, and it's expanded year on year. I think last year in 2019 they had somewhere in the region of 80 breweries perhaps, and you know, these were from all over the place, and they also used to open up their bar, the brewery, as a tap room once a month, which was called a bar. It was called Brewski, and they now have their own bar in the city, which goes by the same name, Brewski, and they sell some very nice ramen there, I have to say. It's not authentic ramen, it's cooked by an American chef, and it is a little bit different, but I will say it is very tasty. That opened back in 2018, and as of April 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've now produced around 300 different types of beer, and they're constantly expanding that. In the local assortments here in Sweden, they tend to release maybe 2, sometimes 3 beers every month, and you will get the odd thing through the tillfällig assortment, the small partiers as well. But I think there are more beers are going outside of Sweden as well. For a long time there was quite a few of the Brewski beers that you couldn't actually get in Sweden. You had to go to Copenhagen to get them, or go through like Glassbank and one of the online sites that have their warehouses in Copenhagen to get some of these beers. But it's a lot easier now for them to get their stuff into Systembolaget, so we're starting to get more and more of it, of course, which is great. But one of the very well respected Swedish craft breweries these days, if you're into your hazy New England IPAs, the Feber series from these guys as well, the fruity IPAs is very nice, and they've got a number of different Berliner Weisses and things. They don't try too many different styles, but when they do an Imperial Stout, that always works out pretty damn nicely in my experience as well. So one of the Swedish breweries that you definitely need to check out if you're into the kind of sours and New England IPAs and stuff like that. I'd love to see these guys do a West Coast IPA though. I think that would be awesome. I don't know if they've ever done that actually, but a very nice brewery nonetheless. And Brewski is one of the best craft beer festivals you'll find in Scandinavia these days. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Brewski Mikrobryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn more, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can also check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's go on to the Russian side of things then. So Zagovor Brewery was founded back in 2014, and these guys can be found in the capital city, Moscow. So apparently a lot of the breweries in Russia started up when the currency collapsed back in 2014, and this meant that the imported beers became very, very expensive. So the Russians decided they were going to brew their own. So the brewery was originally founded by 6 people, although one of them left early on, being active in the brewery, to return to medicine. Another went on to work in television, but he still helps in sales. But the main 4 founders that are still active in the brewery are Gregory Maleev, Alexander Maltsev, Alexander Sasha Korobkov, and also Vadim Gurov. And these friends apparently met through music and playing music together, and they played in various different bands. They travelled the world and they drank beer together, and it was on their travels through America and Australia that they first encountered craft beer and started drinking it, and they decided that after a while they wanted to take this back to Russia and brew their own beers, and this was what really got them into their home brewing roots, if you like. But initially these guys were contract brewing their beers, but they opened up their own brewery in early 2018, and all of the equipment that they have is Russian built. It comes from 3 different companies. This is Brew Success Group, who are in St. Petersburg, Nomas, who are in Mias, and also Pintcraft, who are from Voronezh, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sasha Korobkov is the head brewer, and they started off brewing 180 hectolitres per month, but they do have the capacity in this brewery to brew 300 hectolitres per month. I think they've been gradually scaling up over the last couple of years. But as of March 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced over 150 different types of beer. They've got an association with the Rule tap room in Moscow, and also the Dogma bottle shop as well, which was where Hannah got my last beers that I had from Zagovor as well, actually. And the name Zagovor or Zagovor, I'm not sure exactly how we should pronounce it in English, but it translates into English as conspiracy. So this brewery's name is literally the Conspiracy Brewery, which is kind of cool actually. So yeah, like I said to you guys, my experience with this brewery before has been very positive. The 2 New England IPAs that I had, the Stamp of Approval and the Soundwave, I think it was. One of them was a single IPA, one of them was a double IPA, and both of those were very, very nice. I think on par with the things that you're going to find from the likes of Stigbergets, Lervig, Amundsen, you know, that was up there, and you know, those breweries, those Scandinavian breweries I'm talking about, are on par with the American ones in my opinion. I was very, very impressed with the beers that I had from Zagovor. So yeah, if you get the chance to try some of their beers, I highly recommend that you do. I want to try a few different styles from them next time actually. It'd be cool to try you know, one of their own imperial stouts and like a West Coast IPA or something like that. I'm not sure exactly all the different styles that they do, but if they can do the New England IPAs pretty well, I'm sure there will be some other very interesting brews in there. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Zagovor Brewery for the moment. That was all the information I was really able to find on these guys actually. But a Russian brewery that are becoming a lot more well known. They probably are. These guys, along with AF Brew and Stam, are probably the best known Russian breweries in Europe at the moment, and those three are definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. So yeah, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this one then. Definitely cool to have a Swedish-Russian collaboration, well, another Swedish-Russian collaboration, because I did have the one with Stigbergets and AF Brew before. That was a lovely barley wine beer. But as you can see, this one, you know, it's got a shower on it for two people. Don't know if that's being a little bit suggestive or exactly what is going on there. But yeah, there you can see, there is the Zagovor symbol on this one. I'll just let the camera focus on that there. And there you can see the little man from Brewski, which is pretty cool. But like I said, this one is an 8% double IPA, the double shower double IPA, and this one they're saying it has wheat, oats and lactose in it, so it should be quite a smooth one. And it said on Untappd that this one had pineapple added to the boil instead of undergoing secondary fermentation, so I think that will be really interesting, to be honest. We'll need to see how that turns out. So yeah, interesting, this one. Like I said, this beer arrived, was released in Sweden rather. It was brewed in Sweden, it didn't arrive in Sweden. It was released on the 3rd of April 2020 through the Tillfälligt assortment. This one was one of the small partiers, not a local release. So without further ado, let's get this guy out then, and we will get on with the tasting. I'm very curious to see what this one has in store for us. I think this will be a lovely big, smooth, hazy New England IPA. So yeah, let's see how we go with this. Yeah, you can smell that pineapple coming out of this one as well. You can smell that lovely kind of light, smooth, fruity flavour coming out of this one. So yeah, as you can see and as you would expect from a New England IPA, especially a double one, this one's poured a lovely kind of hazy, I would say that this is more of a kind of mango-y, peachy juice kind of colour. It's one of the more yellow leaning ones that you're going to come across, but again you can see this beer is very, very hazy actually. You know, the thing is with the New England IPAs, they get hazier and hazier and more soupy basically the higher up you go in the alcohol content, because there's more oats and wheat and things in there to kind of balance the beer out, to give it that higher alcohol content. You can see with this one, it poured with about a half finger of a frothy, perfect white head. It is, you know, pretty much as hazy as you can, you know, I suppose some of the triple IPAs will be hazier than this, but it's not far off the kind of hoppy, oaty, soupy kind of thing actually. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there, but you know, overall it does look pretty damn nice, and it's kind of what you would expect from a hazy New England IPA these days. There's nothing overly surprising about this beer, and this is a style we know that both breweries are very, very good at, but definitely leaning towards the yellow end of the spectrum, the sort of mango-y, pineapple-y juice type colour. You can get ones that are a bit more pale in yellow than this, but yeah, it looks very nice. Nothing surprising about the appearance of this beer then. So let's take a look at that aroma and see how we get on. Oh yeah, so straight away with this one, very, very smooth, very creamy, and quite juicy, I have to say. So yeah, you can smell the oaty creaminess and the lactose in this one straight away. The lactose really gives you that impression of a kind of milkshake IPA. It reminds me of the $10 shake that I had from Siren maybe. When would that have been? That would have been a good 3 years ago or something now that I had that beer. So yeah, I mean the aroma out of this is lovely. It really is very, very nice. So straight away the big oaty creaminess comes out of this one. You've got that kind of lactosey quality to the beer as well. You can smell a little bit of the wheaty note in there, but the wheat comes across as very, very smooth as well. Sometimes you can get a little bit of an astringency out of the kind of wheaty notes. I've told you before, if you compare these beers to the big four in America, the smooth and creamy ones are the Treehouse beers, the Trilliums are a bit more wheaty and bitey, the Alchemists are a bit more farmhousey. I've not tried any of the Hill Farmstead ones really to talk about that, but the aromas off this one are very lovely and, you know, very smooth and very creamy actually. So yeah, this one I think will be pretty special. The more you smell of it, you do get more and more of the wheatiness out of the beer, in fairness. You get the wheatiness towards the back of the nose. There's a little bit of a biscuity quality in there, but really a very smooth and very thick and creamy smelling IPA rather than anything else. I mean, this one's at 8% ABV. As I've told you before, I've always felt with the New Englands that when you go above 8%, generally I think you start to struggle to cover up the alcohol content unless you're going to put in a little bit of caramel, but then you start to make the beer feel a little bit more oily and things like that rather than creamy. So this is a problem I think you have with New Englands that you wouldn't have with West Coast so much. But there are breweries out there that are brewing the triples and things like that very, very well. But yeah, very smooth, very kind of creamy smelling malt base, this one, with just a little touch of biscuit sweetness, and the more you smell of it, as I say, the more kind of wheaty bitiness you start to get out of it. In terms of the hoppy side of things then, for me it's got a lovely kind of really smooth juicy fruitiness. On the green side of the hops it's got a little bit of floral character. It strikes me as being more grassy than anything else, and I don't really get any earthiness out of this one, but it's got a lot of a very kind of, it really has a lot of very smooth kind of tropical fruits. I mean, could it be like Brew 1 or Idaho 7 that's in here as the hop? I know, as I say, I know there's pineapple in this, so you can pretty much straight away with this beer pick out pineapple as one of the smooth things, but you've got a lot of papaya in there, a little bit of a kind of apricot-y note to it as well. I think there is a wee bit of a kind of juicier mango as well, so I think it's maybe, it could well be Idaho 7, which gives you those lovely lighter tropical fruit notes. A little bit of Brew 1 maybe. There is another hop that's come out recently from America that the name kind of escapes me. I know Girillo, if I remember rightly, Girillo is another one that can give you some really nice kind of pineapple-y flavours, but that's really not used very much over here in Europe actually. So, you know, Girillo is a good hop if you want some kind of pineapple-y notes. There's one or two New Zealand ones too that has some big, there are some nice kind of pineapple-y notes on this one. As I say, you know, and there are a few hops out in New Zealand that will give you these lovely juicy tropical notes. But as I say, I think pineapple, obviously, because it's got the pineapple added in. You've got some, you've got a few kind of tones of mangoes and apricots and things in there. A bit of papaya. I don't know if there's any kind of. There's not really a citrusy kind of edge to this one. It is mainly a kind of soft, juicy, kind of tropical fruit that's coming out of this beer. But I will say it smells absolutely lovely. It really does remind me of the seal of approval or stamp of approval, whatever it was called, and the Soundwave. It does remind me a lot of the two Zagovor beers that I've had before. I think this one smells a little bit different compared to the Brewski ones that I've had recently. The Brewski ones I find are always a bit more wheaty and kind of in your face. This one's definitely leaning more towards what I remember of Zagovor, of course. So I think this will be quite interesting to try in that regard as well. But yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma. This one, a very soft, creamy and quite grassy smelling New England IPA in my mind. So let's have a taste of this one then. This one is the Double Shower Double IPA, coming in at 8% ABV, brewed at Brewski Mikrobryggeri in Helsingborg here in Skåne in the south of Sweden, brewed in collaboration with the Zagovor Brewery from Moscow over in Russia. Really nice to see some more Russian beers making their way over here to Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slanje, skål, na zdrowie. That's a really nice beer. Yeah, that's really damn good. I'll tell you straight away, I mean, the thing is with Brewski, they brew so many good, big IPAs. I mean, there was the Triple Threat recently, which I reviewed for you, which was really That was the heaviest one I'd had for them, but it also was one of the contenders for the best beer that I've had from them. One of my old favourites was Conan the Barbarian. I always liked that as well. Little Big Hoppy was a pale ale that was ridiculously good as well. I mean, there's some really, really good beers have come out of Brewski over the last while. So I mean, on the IPA side of things, this is definitely up there with the best ones that I've had from Brewski. So hats off to them for this, and also to Zagovor as well. This is you know, I was thinking this would be a good beer, but I think I'm a bit surprised at how good it is. If you like the Treehouse beers from over in the States, if you love that big kind of smooth, oaty, creamy type thing, you are really going to enjoy this one. This one's a little bit less in your face, I think, than I remember some of the Fever series and things being. But I guess if you like maybe Mango Fever, I think this is one that you will quite enjoy from Brewski actually. So thumbs up to both breweries. This really reminds me a lot of the stamp of approval, or the seal of approval, and the sound wave that I had from Zagovor a couple of months back. This is a very, very nice double IPA. So hopefully this is one that sticks around for a little while. This is a shame. I will say straight away, this would be an absolute shame if they brewed this only once, because this is really good actually. So yeah, let's try and break the flavour down a little bit then and just see how we get on. So yeah, this is really, really very nice. Straight away then, the middle of the palate is kind of blanketed with that kind of the wheaty quality. Towards the back of the palate you can really pick out a little bit of the kind of wheaty bitiness pushing its way out, but as you come further forward on the tongue you really get the kind of oaty creaminess towards the front of the palate, and you can feel the lactose is just smoothing that out a little bit, and the feel from the pineapple in here, because when you, as I say, when you add fruit into the brew, it is pretty much going to, if you're adding it into the boil actually, it is going to just juicen up and add more things into you know, into the beer. You can really feel this is a very, very smooth and very juicy IPA actually. I really like this. I didn't know that you could really add fruit into the boil. I thought you always added fruit just into the thing. It did say on the Untappd page that it was added into the boil, not into the what do you call it, the fermentation tank. So yeah, that's a really interesting point to make about this one. Maybe somebody's typed it wrong, I don't know, but I've never heard of that before. But I mean, at the end of the day, who cares? But I'm curious as to why this beer is like it is. I've always been interested in the chemistry behind these things because of my own chemistry background. But you know, this really is nice. As I say, one of the best hazy IPAs that I've had from Brewski. This one just really hits a lot of spots for me. So yeah, so as I say, the malt base in this is just lovely. Wheaty, a little bit wheaty and bitey towards the back of the palate. More kind of smooth and oaty and creamy as you reach the front of the tongue. And you do get a little bit of that lactosey sweetness right at the front of the palate. If you go to the very centre of your tongue, you will get a wee bit of there is a wee touch of a caramelly, biscuity type thing of this one. It's not maybe quite strong enough to be caramelly, but maybe, I do wonder, maybe there is a wee bit of a carapils or something like that in there, maybe just a wee touch of a kind of biscuit malt or something like that, because as I say, when you go over the kind of 8% mark, you really need just a little bit of sweetness in these beers to kind of round them off, in my opinion. But it really does have, it's got a nice little bit of sweetness there in the centre of the palate, and you can feel the wheatiness just pushing its way out towards the back of the palate as well, but it stays very, very sweet, oaty and kind of milky, kind of lactosey towards the front of the tongue too. The malt base in this is really spot on in my mind, so thumbs up to both breweries. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate you can pick up a little touch of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the side of the tongue, you do get a little bit of that kind of floral, aromatic-y type quality out of the beer. It's not really resinous in my mind, it is more of a kind of floral note. As you reach the front corners of the palate, you can feel it's almost just a little touch spicy, and then round the front curve of the tongue you can get a little bit of grassiness and just a little bit of a citrusy, zesty quality coming out of this one as well. But you can feel the pineapple around the very edge of your tongue. Whenever you add fruit into the brew, it suppresses a little bit of the kind of IBU part of the beer in my mind, and you can really feel with this one that the pineapple notes just sit there on the edge of the palate, which is really very nice. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer, I think, really is quite nice. I mean, if you go towards the back of the palate, I do wonder if there's Galaxy in this. Just going from the flavours, I think it is more likely to be Galaxy that's in this, rather than Idaho 7 or whatever. I think it's got a little bit of that pungent kind of passion fruity note that you would expect of Galaxy. Galaxy can of course give you those pineapple-y notes as well, but I think there's Galaxy. Maybe there could be Idaho 7 or something in there too. But if you go towards the back, as I always see, you get that little oily bubble behind the front curve of the tongue where the fruity esters kind of roll out of the beer. And if you go towards the back of the palate there, you've definitely got that kind of stronger, darker passion fruity note, and as you come further forward from that, it gradually makes the transition to be more of a kind of mango-y flavour. Then you start to get a little bit of that apricot-y papaya type thing, and then as you reach the kind of front tip of the palate, that's where you're getting some of the kind of pineapple-y notes out of this beer. I think there's Galaxy. I don't think it could be Citra. There's not enough kind of complexity to the flavours on the edge of the tongue for it to be Citra, I think. Citra can give you gooseberry and light cheese and lemon lime and all of these kind of things. Although in fairness, around the edge of the palate, under the kind of pineapple notes, you will get a little bit of a kind of citrusy, zesty note out of this one. I'm tempted to say it's a little bit kind of lemony limey, but yeah, you do pick out a little bit of that under the pineapple-y notes on the edge of the palate, in my opinion. But the fruitiness on this is very nice. You've got a good contrast there, as I say, darker passion fruits, softer kind of mango-y and apricot-y, papaya-like flavours, and then the pineapple on the very edge of the tongue. So yeah, this one really is very nice. The thing that strikes me about this is just how kind of smooth and creamy it is, and it's just got everything that I would kind of want from this style. It drinks so nicely as well. At 8% ABV, the drinkability of this one is a bit kind of stupidly crazy for what it is. But this is a shame if they only do this beer once. I would say to Brewski, do think about this. This is, in fairness, I can see why, because the Triple Threat was very good. They'll change that for something else. They are capable of producing different things, but I think for this one to be released only as a small party, it is a bit of a shame, because not many people are going to get to drink this. I would say maybe consider brewing another batch of this one and releasing it in one of the local and Småskaligt, because this is really nice actually. Do please, if Brewski are watching, do please consider releasing that, and I hope that Zagovor have released their own version of this in Moscow as well actually, because this is really very nice. So yeah, I think we've kind of covered all we really can with the flavour. Just a lovely, very smooth, drinkable IPA. It reminds me a lot of the Zagovor beers. It's almost a little bit like a little brother to the Triple Threat that I reviewed as well. It's a lot more smooth and kind of creamy. Some of the other Brewski beers I've had before are a bit more wheaty and bitey and things. This one's just got a lovely smoothness to it in my mind. So yeah, thumbs up to both breweries here. In terms of the mouthfeel, this one's definitely, it's kind of top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. The carbonation is very smooth. The mouthfeel has a little bit of oiliness to it as well. It's like an oily, creamy kind of combination you've got going on here. In terms of the bitterness, the IBUs, yeah, I'd say this is your kind of standard 30, maybe 40 IBUs that you'd expect for this style. Malt base, like I said, really lovely and smooth. Quite thick actually. The more you drink of this beer, the more you can feel it thickening up. Kind of creamier towards the front of the palate, a little bit more bitey towards the back, a little bit of sweetness in the middle, like I said. So it's got a really good balance between everything. And the fruitiness in this beer, it's got a wee bit of juice. It's got a good bit of juiciness and a little touch of oiliness to it, but again, it's very smooth and it fits in with the kind of creamy character that this beer has. But as I said, this is a lovely, lovely beer, this one, and I really would recommend that you check this one out if you get the chance. It's a shame that it came as a small party rather than a local in Småskaligt. So I do hope that Brewski consider making another couple of batches of this and letting people try it, because it really is very damn nice, and hopefully Zagovor as well brew their own version of this one and let the Russians try it too, unless Brewski are going to export it over there, of course. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. The double shower, double IPA, 8%. ABV, collaboration between Brewski Mikrobryggeri and from Helsingborg here in Skåne in Sweden, and Zagovor Brewery from Moscow in Russia. Really a very lovely, smooth New England double IPA. If you're watching from Sweden, then compare this to the Triple Threat. It's a little bit like a little brother of the Triple Threat from these guys before, and if you're comparing it from the Russian perspective, it's, you know, at least in my experience, it's not a million. It's very, very close actually to the stamp of approval and the sound wave that I tried back in sort of August, September of 2019. But a beautiful beer, and one that I really recommend that you try. That's one of the best IPAs I've tried from Brewski, in my humble opinion, along with Triple Threat, Conan, Little Big Hoppy and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brewski and from Zagovor. Definitely be interesting to return to Zagovor quite soon, and I'm sure I'll be reviewing more from Brewski very soon as well. Thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out both the breweries, and I'll catch you guys very soon. The Double Shower Double IPA at 8% ABV from Brewski Mikrobryggeri, Helsingborg, Skåne, Sweden, and Zagovor Brewery from Moscow in Russia. Slanja, skål, na zdrowie, and thank you for watching.